Hey guys, tonight we're going to do something you've probably never done before. We're going to slowly, carefully, and almost reverently clean a samurai's ears. Not yours, don't panic, but the ears of a well-groomed warrior from centuries ago. You're there. Wooden sandals, stiff hakama trousers, and a whole world of quiet rituals and unspoken rules. There's a light drizzle soaking through the paper lanterns of Kyoto streets, and you're hungry, slightly damp, and, let's be honest, your ears are itching a little. The world of the samurai wasn't all sword fights and solemn oaths. In fact, it was a lot of walking around in uncomfortable shoes, eating pickled plums, and trying not to commit social disgrace by sneezing at the wrong moment. And yes, like anyone else, these fearsome warriors got earwax. Some even believed that if your ears weren't properly cleaned, your sense of balance might be off, not exactly ideal when someone's trying to lob your head off with a katana. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from somewhere special tonight, leave a comment with your location and local time. I love seeing where you all tune in from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're a mid-ranking samurai in the late 1600s, somewhere between obscure and important, with a small stipend, a loyal but quiet servant, and one truly annoying problem: that subtle, scratchy, internal whisper of wax shifting in your left ear. You try ignoring it. You do. But it's there, like the tickle of a gnat you can't swat. It's been raining for days, and everything smells vaguely of wet wood and rice wine. As you make your way through the muddy alleys of Kyoto, your sandals squish softly. A dog barks in the distance. You pass an old man cooking eel on a stick under a tattered parasol. He squints up at you, bows respectfully, then returns to flipping his skewers. His ears, you notice, are enormous. You imagine they'd take forever to clean. Historically, Kyoto was the capital of refinement, and yes, ear cleanliness. Samurai weren't just warriors. They were expected to embody a full suite of virtues, including personal hygiene. Dirty ears? That meant you weren't paying attention to the little things. And in a society built entirely on appearances, posture, and unspoken judgment, little things meant everything. You duck into your small home, a low-roofed, cedar-framed space that smells of tatami, ash, and damp silk. Your servant, June, greets you silently with a bow and offers a cloth to dry your hands. You nod, then gesture toward the small lacquered box near your futon. Inside is your mimikake. Now, if you've never used a mimikake, imagine a delicate bamboo spoon, thin as a matchstick, gently curved at the end. It doesn't scoop so much as caress. Some were plain, others were ornately carved, even inlaid with gold or silver. Yours is simple, worn smooth by years of careful use. You sit by the warm brazier, tilt your head slightly, and begin the ritual. Historians still argue whether ear cleaning was done daily or just as needed, but given the amount of poetic references to the act, it's fair to assume it wasn't rare. In fact, Japanese records suggest ear cleaning was often linked with intimacy, focus, and calm. And for a samurai, a man constantly balancing death, honor, and household expenses, that moment of quiet grooming was practically sacred. June shuffles about in the background, quietly placing down a cup of tea and a folded towel. Outside, the rain picks up again, rattling softly against the shoji screens. You close your eyes. Slide the mimikake into your right ear. Gently, gently. Some people today still use these tools in Japan. There's even a word, mimikakiya, for specialty parlors that perform ear cleaning professionally, a tradition with roots in this very era. Back then, a wife or concubine might do it, or a servant, or, sometimes, a traveling ear-cleaning monk, although those were rare and, frankly, kind of weird. You pause mid-cleaning to sip your tea, ears tingling slightly from the gentle scratch. There's something almost meditative about the moment. And as odd as it might sound, ear cleaning was often compared to writing poetry. Slow, deliberate, graceful. One 17th century haiku reads, "A scratch inside the ear. Spring wind lifts the lantern smoke. I forget my name." Okay, maybe not quite that deep, but you get the idea. By now, you're kneeling comfortably, head tipped, Mimikake in hand. The tea is cooling. The fire is crackling. You're clean, at ease, and for once, no one is asking you to attend a duel at sunrise. Little details make you pause. The worn polish of the tool. The way the ash in the brazier shifts when you exhale. The faint scent of old camellia oil in your sleeve. It all becomes part of the ritual. And just when you think the evening can't get more peaceful, June returns with a tiny cotton ball and asks if you'd like your ears oiled. You raise an eyebrow but nod. Why not? In fact, ear oiling was a common follow-up to cleaning, preventing dryness, especially in colder months. As June applies the faintest dab to your ear canal, you stare into the middle distance and remember the last time you used this ritual to calm your nerves before a duel. You didn't lose an ear that day, but your opponent did. And now, here you are again, still intact, still scratching away the day's silence. You wake early, the sky just beginning to smudge pink against the rice paper windows. June has already lit the small hearth, and a gentle scent of toasted barley hangs in the air. You stretch, ears still tingling faintly from last night's ritual. There's a calm there, like your brain has been lightly dusted and filed into neat rows. But today's not a lazy day. You're expected at the dojo, and the sensei isn't one to tolerate tardiness or waxy ears. As you knot your obi and tie your swords into place, you can't help but glance back at your Mimikake resting on the lacquered tray. One quick swipe wouldn't hurt. You pick it up with the kind of reverence most people reserve for wedding rings or very sharp knives. The dojo is across town, through a series of narrow lanes and wooden bridges still slick from last night's rain. As you walk, you pass a young boy with his grandmother seated on their front porch. She's cradling his head in her lap and slowly cleaning his ears while humming. He looks like he's in bliss. You almost trip watching them. It wasn't uncommon, you remember, for older women to clean their grandchildren's ears this way. In fact, the lap-based cleaning position, called Mimikake Zuwari, was practically universal. The child lays their head in someone's lap, and the cleaner, often a mother or grandmother, performs the gentle scoop and wipe routine. Soothing. Intimate. Basically prehistoric ASMR. Of course, you can't exactly show up at your dojo asking to rest your head in the sensei's lap. That's how people end up cleaning latrines for a month. You arrive just as the other samurai in training are beginning their stretches. The dojo smells of sandalwood and sweat, a familiar blend. You take your place, sparring sword at the ready, but your mind drifts. Because here's the truth no one says out loud, balance matters. An inner ear balance? That's a thing. Some historical scholars point out that samurai linked body equilibrium with spiritual alignment. A clean ear meant more than hygiene. It meant clarity of thought, readiness in battle. Like tuning a lute string to the right pitch. Too tight and it snaps. Too loose and it won't sing. Balance from the ears outward, your old master used to say, usually after flicking you on the temple. Today's lesson is about footwork, sharp, snappy pivots. You feel light, fluid. Is it from the tea? The good night's sleep? Or is it because there's no rogue wax chunk shifting mid-lunge? Hard to say. But you're landing cleaner than usual, striking faster. Historians still argue whether samurai believed physical grooming affected their martial skill directly, or if it was just ritual comfort. But accounts from the Edo period include meticulous grooming records. Some warriors cataloged their nail trimmings, eyebrow maintenance, and yes, ear cleaning schedules like sacred rites. That's either admirable discipline or low-key obsessive. During a break, you sit by the wall and eavesdrop on two younger samurai. They're whispering about a miko, a shrine maiden rumored to offer spiritual ear cleansing near the Gion district. One claims he saw visions during his session. The other swears he just saw her wink. You smirk. Fringe belief or not, ear cleaning by a miko wasn't unheard of. Blending Shinto rituals with grooming wasn't exactly orthodox, but the lines between sacred and sanitary were blurrier back then. And you'll admit it, the idea of having a goddess-level figure oil your ears while chanting blessings does sound pretty great. You head home late afternoon, muscles sore but spirits high. You pass another alley where a merchant is selling carved mimikake from a straw mat. They're laid out like jewelry, some bone-handled, some shaped like cranes or lotus flowers. You pick one up, a dragon coiled around the spoon. Tempting. But no. Yours is simple and it works. At home, June greets you with a nod. The bath is ready, heated stones in a wooden tub. You strip down, easing into the steam. The tension unspools. You splash your face. Then, yes, you clean your ears again. It's almost subconscious now. The bath mimikake is different. A longer handle. Slightly curved for use in steamy conditions. You'd never use the same tool dry. That would be uncultured. Practically barbaric. And yes, actual samurai grooming kits included specific mimikake for travel, bathing, or ceremonial wear. One quirky tidbit? Some mimikake doubled as hairpins or hat ornaments. You'd never know that sharp little phoenix sticking out of someone's bun was also used to fish wax out of ears a few hours earlier. Elegant and horrifying. You finish your bath, towel off, and sit near the garden. The moon is climbing, huge and orange over the rooftops. You tilt your head again and trace your ear's edge with your fingertip, feeling for any sign of discomfort. None. Perfect. Your body hums with readiness. Still, part of you wonders, did other warriors obsess like this? Was this a universal samurai trait, or just your weird little ritual? You remember reading an old scroll in your family's storage room, back when you were a teenager pretending to study. It mentioned a daimyo, some warlord from the Sengoku period, who reportedly had his ears cleaned before every battle by a personal monk. He called it banishing the echoes. That monk was later given a horse and a small estate. For ear cleaning. Historians, of course, debate whether that's apocryphal or just weirdly specific fact. But it sticks with you. The night deepens. Somewhere, a shamisen player plucks a soft, mournful tune. You breathe it in. One last ear scratch before sleep. Ritual matters. Consistency matters. And besides, tomorrow you'll face your rival in a formal sparring match. You'll want your ears sharp. Morning again. You stir under your futon, the faint rustle of bamboo outside the window whispering through the still air. The match is today. Formal, public, and watched by the head sensei, who only raises an eyebrow once a decade. If that, you sit up slowly. You're calm, collected. But before anything else, you reach for your mimikake. It's instinctual now, like tying your sword belt or checking your top knot for stray hairs. You take your time. The spoon's curve glides along the inner wall of your ear like a boat through calm water. The motion is practiced, patient. Like tea ceremony, but with more earwax and less bowing. Across Japan, especially during the Edo period, this wasn't a you thing. It was a samurai thing. They didn't just polish their swords, they polished themselves. Grooming was both duty and discipline. Samurai were expected to be warriors and gentlemen, and personal cleanliness reflected inner order. The ears? Oh, those were the finishing touch. A single fleck of wax under your helmet could throw off your focus. Not because it changed the physics of battle, but because you'd know it was there. And if your enemy didn't have that problem, if he showed up with ears so pristine they practically whistled when the wind hit, he might already have the edge. You eat quickly, rice, miso, a few pickled plums. June offers you a nod, maybe a prayer. You return it with a slight bow, mimikake tucked neatly back onto its tray, gleaming like a tiny crescent moon. The match is at the public dojo. You arrive early and step onto the tatami mats, the smell of wood and history all around. Your opponent is already there. Takeshi. Taller than you by a head. Smells faintly of camellia oil and overconfidence. He bows. The crowd hushes. The fight begins. Now, no amount of ear cleaning will block a good shin strike, but you swear your reflexes are just a hair sharper today. Takeshi lunges left. You pivot, dodge, spin. Your footing? Flawless. Your balance? Centered. Your mind? Clear as spring water. There's something meditative about it. You react without overthinking, and scholars might say that's due to muscle memory and intense training. But you think it's the absence of distraction. No itch in your canal. No discomfort when you tilt to strike. You're clean. And weirdly, that means you're free. Takeshi comes in strong with a two-handed strike. You parry, twist, and tip. The match ends with your bakken at his chest. You bow again. He nods, tight-lipped. The crowd claps politely. No one cheers. This is samurai decorum, not a kabuki brawl. But the sensei raises one eyebrow. Later, after the match, you sit near the water basin outside the dojo. Takashi approaches, not angry, just curious. You move differently, he says. Centered, like a stone in the river. You tap your ear and smile. Clean ears. He stares at you like you've just said your secret weapon is fermented eel oil. But here's the thing, some samurai actually did use ear oils. Special blends made from sesame or camellia oil, sometimes infused with herbs or incense like yuzu peel or sandalwood. Not only did it soften wax, it supposedly improved hearing. One fringe account from a Kyoto apothecary claims a famous ronin enhanced his directional hearing so much he could sense arrows before their strings sang. Sounds a bit far-fetched, but then again, so do most things until someone does them. You head home through the market streets. A vendor offers skewered fish, another sells incense that smells suspiciously like temple smoke and regret. You pass an apothecary stall with a placard reading, Ear Clarity Elixir, now with ginkgo root. Ginkgo root? That old belief that it boosts memory and hearing. Was it placebo? Maybe. But your grandfather swore by it, drinking a small cup before every poetry recital. He never forgot a single haiku, though he did once forget where he left his sandals. Historians still argue whether remedies like ginkgo or ear oils had any true medicinal effect or were just cultural tradition wrapped in pretty packaging. But then again, the placebo effect is real. And if believing your ears are better makes you fight better, well, victory's still yours. Back at home, June has drawn the shoji screens and lit a lantern. The house feels warm, peaceful. You change into a lighter robe, your training clothes hanging damp with sweat by the door. You glance at your mimikake again. Technically, you already cleaned your ears this morning. But your fingers twitch. You sit down. One ear. Just one pass. You exhale. Gentle scoop. Then another. You get a tiny bit, barely anything. But it feels necessary. Calming. As if all the thoughts of the day are being removed one fleck at a time. And here's the bit you don't tell anyone. You sometimes talk to your mimikake. Not aloud, obviously. That would be ridiculous. But you thank it mentally. It's not just a tool. It's your silent sparring partner. Your pre-match ritual. Your private, gleaming confidant. You store it in its case, wrap it in cloth, and slide it into the carved compartment under the floorboard. Secure. Night falls. You stretch out on your futon, muscles humming from the fight, brain still running scenes from the duel like a replay loop. But the overriding sensation is clarity. You tilt your head on the pillow, no crackling, no itch, no fuzz. You smile. Tomorrow, maybe Takashi will show up with cleaner ears. You wake to the sound of rain tapping the paper walls like 1,000 soft fingers. A storm rolled in overnight, muting the world outside in gray. The kind of day that smells like wet cedar and introspection. You roll onto your back, arms folded under your head, and just listen. And there it is, the subtle, almost imperceptible joy of silence. No tickling, no popping, no weird damp pressure behind the eardrum. You smile, because that wasn't always the case. You remember the time your right ear got so clogged with wax after a week in the forest during kendo retreat? It felt like someone stuffed cotton inside your skull. You'd lost a spar that day, not because of your form, but because you couldn't hear the whistle that ended the round. Embarrassing. Never again. You sit up and pull your mimikake from its velvet pouch. You examine the curve, the way the light gleams off the tiny scoop, and then you do something most wouldn't admit out loud. You sniff it. Just for a second. It smells faintly of sandalwood, because June cleans it with oil after every use. She says it keeps the ghosts of the gunk from lingering. That's the thing. Samurai didn't just clean their ears. They took care of the tools they used to clean their ears. A mimikake wasn't a disposable plastic Q-tip. It was a lifelong companion. Some were carved from bamboo, others from lacquered cherrywood or even ivory, passed down through generations like swords or tea bowls. Decorative, symbolic, almost sacred. Some had tassels. Others had charms carved into the end, tiny dragons or lotus blossoms to keep bad spirits out of your ear canal. That's not a joke. You walk to the veranda and stare out into the mist. You tilt your head slightly to the left and listen. Birds. Distant temple bell. Raindrops skipping off tile roofs. Every frequency sharp and clear. You don't just hear the world, you notice it. Samurai were trained in awareness as much as technique. Mushin, the empty mind, wasn't just about losing thought, it was about tuning in, becoming hyper-attuned to every cue around you. Footfalls. Breathing. The wind against a blade. And when your ears are gunked up, Mushin gets muffled. One old manuscript, the Budo no Chokai, includes a curious training recommendation that warriors should spend an hour a week in silence, using only hearing to map their environment. No talking. No looking. Just listening. Scholars debate whether this was metaphorical, listen to the world, in a Zen sense, or literal. But the fact that the ears are mentioned at all speaks volumes. You step down into the garden path. The stone is slick under your sandals, but the rain is gentle now, barely a whisper. You remember a story your grandfather told, about a legendary swordmaster who trained blindfolded and barefoot, relying on sound to predict his opponent's next moves. The story ends, bizarrely, with him losing the match not because of any error in combat, but because a cicada had crawled into his ear the night before and scrambled his equilibrium. Historically accurate? Maybe not. But there are records of insect-related ear incidents in feudal Japan. One village record in Ibaraki tells of a farmer who lost hearing after a beetle took up residence during rice harvest season. Treatments included heated hairpins, herbal steam, and, yes, tiny ear spoons. Back inside, June is laying out your writing set. Inkstone, brushes, thin rice paper. You've got correspondence to attend to, mostly formal thank yous and match reports. But before the brush touches ink, you feel that itch. Not a literal one, more of a mental tickle. You reach again for the mimikaki. Just one pass, you tell yourself. There's something poetic about this ritual. Almost compulsive, but soothing. Like a monk striking the same bell every morning. The gentle twist of the tool. The slight scrape against the canal wall. You remember reading once that the Japanese word for this, mimikaki, isn't just the name of the tool, but also the verb for the action. It's not something you do to your ear. It's something you become part of. You finish your letters. Then it's dojo time. Training today is less formal, just drills, no matches. Kataforms. Group exercises. But every time your feet slide into a stance, you're grateful you can hear the shuffle of the others around you. Every breath, every shift, every dropped bakken behind you. It keeps you connected. Yamada, the eldest in your group, approaches between drills. He has a strange, almost conspiratorial look on his face. Ever try ears steaming? He asks, deadpan. You blink. What? He nods, serious as a sword. Hot towel. Over the head. Boiling herbs underneath. Clears the sinuses and the wax. Some monks at Kiyomizudera do it twice a week. Now you're skeptical, but the man did block a Shernai strike blind last week, so maybe he's onto something. That night, you boil a mix of dried yuzu peel and chrysanthemum in a small pot, sit under a towel, and try it. It burns your eyes. Makes you cough. You sweat so much you feel like a steamed bun. But after 10 minutes, you tilt your head and hear a faint pop in your right ear. Like a pebble dropping into a well. The world opens wider. You can hear June humming 3 rooms away. Do the monks actually do this? Some records say yes, especially in cold mountain regions. Was it for ear health, or just part of general purification? Historians still argue whether ear care rituals in temples were practical medicine or symbolic acts. Probably both. You lie in bed later, towel still clinging to your shoulders. No need for the mimikaki tonight. You're clean in every sense, steamed, scooped, and spiritually sound. June curls beside you. Did it work? She asks, half asleep. You nod. I can hear the fan spinning. She pauses, then adds, it's not on. A beat of silence. Wait, really? You whisper. She laughs into your pillow. You smile and close your eyes, still half convinced your ears have unlocked some supernatural frequency. Or maybe it's just the steam talking. Either way, you drift off to the sound of nothing. And it's perfect. The next morning, you're standing in front of the polished mirror again, Mimikaki in hand, caught in a familiar inner debate. Do you go in again today? Or is it too soon? Is that weird little crinkle behind your right ear the start of a waxy rebellion, or just the echo of last night's steaming adventure? You sigh. The urge is real, addictive, even. And here's a fun fact to make you feel less strange about it. Samurai weren't immune to overcleaning either. In fact, old Edo period health scrolls warned about ear obsession, or Mimikaki bio. Literal translation? Ear cleaning sickness. It sounds made up, like a joke your friend would toss out over sake. But it's real. Descriptions range from daily cleaning compulsions to ear canal irritation from too much scraping. One physician wrote of a merchant's son who poked so often he eventually had to sleep sitting up to keep his ears from hurting on the pillow. You sit, towel around your shoulders, Mimikaki resting across your lap like a tiny samurai blade. It's ceremonial now. Intentional. You remember what June said last month, that your cleaning ritual has become more than hygiene. It's meditation. A quiet space where you're not a warrior or a scribe or a son. You're just a pair of ears in the rain. You lean forward slightly, taking your time. Just one gentle scoop. You don't even expect to find anything. But there it is, a tiny golden curl, glistening faintly like lacquer in the morning light. You flick it into the cloth with a strange sense of pride. And here's the thing, that golden wax? It's a window into your health. Seriously. Japanese herbalists believed the color of earwax could indicate everything from hydration to emotional imbalance. Pale yellow? You're fine. Too dry and flaky? Might need more sesame oil in your diet. Dark and sticky? Time to slow down, drink water, and stop arguing with your uncle about land rights. Western science even backs some of this up, though we tend to phrase it less poetically. But the fact remains, ears don't lie. After your session, you slide the Mimikaki back into its pouch and walk to the apothecary. Not for medicine, just curiosity. The local herbalist, a sleepy-eyed woman named Keed, knows everything about strange body fixations. You find her crushing something that smells like burned orange peels and licorice root. You ask her if ear steaming actually clears toxins or if it's just hot spa vapor for overthinkers. She smiles, sets down her mortar and says, "Both? It helps the spirit hear better." You wait for her to elaborate, but that's all she offers. So, yeah, maybe you're treating your ears and your karma. The thing is, in samurai households, ear care wasn't always private. That might sound weird now, but back then, Mimikaki was often shared. Family members helped clean each other's ears. Wives did it for husbands. Children for grandparents. Not just hygiene, intimacy. There are woodblock prints, actual ukiyo-e art, showing women cradling their partners' heads, lovingly cleaning ears under paper lanterns. Not exactly the high-action samurai image you're used to. But those prints sold well. Because people related to them. That intimacy still lingers in the culture today. Ask anyone who's experienced a traditional ear-cleaning salon in modern Japan, it's not clinical. It's personal. Pillows, soft whispering, sometimes even head patting. You don't walk out just clean. You walk out soothed. So you start noticing the ritual in others. At the bathhouse later, you see an old man with a cotton-wrapped Mimikaki, slowly swirling it between his fingers while humming a folk song. Next to him, a boy tries to copy him, poking aimlessly and flinching every few seconds. The old man chuckles and guides the boy's hand. "Gentle," he says. "It's not war." You smile. Later that week, you visit June's father. Formal family dinner. She's nervous. You're more worried about slurping noodles correctly. After the meal, conversation drifts to weapon maintenance and discipline. You mention your Mimikaki. Her father perks up, stands, walks to his chest, and pulls out a case wrapped in faded indigo silk. Inside, a lacquered ear scoop carved with 2 cranes and a sunburst. The metal scoop glows like polished moonlight. "This was my father's," he says. "He used it before battle." You freeze. You weren't expecting this level of seriousness. He hands it to you. It's heavier than yours. More solid. And when you try it later that night, carefully of course, you understand why. The curve fits deeper. The weight keeps your hand steady. It's perfect. You clean just once, then polish it and return it, bowing lower than usual. Historians still argue whether mimikake were ever considered heirlooms in formal records. Most focus on armor or swords. But oral traditions? They say otherwise. Some families even stored them in the same drawer as shrine amulets and birth records. Back home, June teases you. So, did you get the father's approval? You nod solemnly. He let me clean my ears with his family legacy. She bursts out laughing. You pretend to be wounded. The next morning, you carve a small box for your own mimikake. Cherry wood, lined with silk, sealed with wax. It feels like the right thing to do. Because now you're starting to understand, this isn't just about wax. It's about legacy, control, and quiet pride. And maybe, just maybe, you're a little ear-cleaning obsessed. You're walking through the merchant district, weaving between clattering handcarts and gossiping hawkers, when a glint of silver catches your eye. Nestled between folding fans and combs lies a tray of ear picks. Mimikake, yes, but different from anything you've seen. They're shaped like tiny birds, dragons, one even like a chrysanthemum in full bloom. A woman in layered indigo leans forward and says, "For the warrior who listens before he strikes." You pick up the dragon-shaped one. It's absurdly ornate. The shaft is etched with miniature scales, the scoop shaped like a claw. It's ridiculous. You love it. But the price is ridiculous too. Still, your hand lingers. See, the mimikake isn't just a tool anymore. It's identity. Like a sword, or those Mon crests stitched on your sleeves. Back in the Edo period, artisans made custom mimikake for high-ranking samurai. The higher the status, the fancier the scoop. Some were inlaid with gold or jade, while others featured family crests at the handle. There are even museum pieces today that show mimikake made entirely of ivory or mother-of-pearl. And no, they weren't just for show, these were working instruments. You try not to justify it too hard, but you buy the dragon. June shakes her head. One more mimikake and you'll need a sword rack just to store them. You agree. Then buy a pouch with embroidered clouds to carry it. Here's the thing, fashion mattered. Especially for something as oddly intimate as ear care. And when you were traveling, say, on a procession to Edo or visiting a lord, you were expected to bring personal grooming items. Folding combs, toothpicks, tweezers, and yes, mimikake. These were stored in yatsum, small travel kits that rolled up like a modern-day pencil case. Some were leather, some silk. If you had money, yours matched your outer kimono. Historians still argue whether the presence of grooming tools in burial sites meant vanity, ritual preparation, or something else entirely. But what's certain is this: the samurai didn't just die for honor, they wanted to look damn clean doing it. On the road, you stop at a rural inn. The tatami mats smell faintly of buckwheat and wood smoke. There's no mirror, so you crouch beside a still pool in the back garden and examine your reflection. A few loose strands of hair, dust on your shoulder, a faint smudge by your ear. You reach into your sleeve and pull out the dragon mimikake. It glints in the moonlight, ridiculous and regal. And that's when the innkeeper walks by. Pauses. Squints. "Nice scoop," he says. "But you're holding it wrong." You look up, startled. What?" He chuckles and sits beside you, motioning for the scoop. You hand it over, slightly embarrassed. He holds it like a calligraphy brush, perfectly balanced, hand resting lightly against the palm. "This," he says, "is the old-school way. You're using it like a claw. It's not for gouging. It's for coaxing." You nod, trying to absorb the lesson. Turns out, technique mattered. Old medical scrolls even recommended specific wrist angles. There was a kind of art to it, like tea ceremony or ink painting. It wasn't about speed. It was about flow. Rhythm. You thank him. The man stands, pats his back, and wanders off muttering something about young ears, no patience. You stare at the scoop. Let's do this again. Back home a few days later, you try the new grip. The difference is instant. The scoop glides. No scratching. Just a satisfying, whispery graze. You barely pick up any wax, But it doesn't matter. The movement itself is satisfying, like drawing circles on a fogged-up window. You wonder how many warriors practiced this before battle. Maybe they crouched by candlelight, scraping gently, letting the rhythm slow their pulse. After all, what better way to sharpen your focus than literally tuning your ears? You remember reading somewhere, probably scribbled on the side of an old scroll, that some archery schools used ear cleaning as a breathing exercise. Focus. Inhale. Scoop. Exhale. Like a weird, waxy form of Zen. June watches you from the doorway, arms crossed, amused. I'm telling you, you say, I think I'm getting better at hearing birds. She walks away laughing. But here's the thing, you kind of are. With ears clear, you start noticing things, how the kettle whistles from across the house, or the tiny creak in the floorboards near the shrine room. Even June's whispers when she thinks you're asleep. Sound becomes more than noise. It's texture. One day, you're walking along the riverbank when you hear footsteps behind you, light, almost hesitant. You glance back. No one's there. But then, a soft plop as a stone slips from the embankment. Someone was following. Now they're gone. You smirk. Guess all that ear cleaning paid off. Modern science might credit this to placebo or heightened attention from a tactile ritual. But back then, this was proof of balance. You weren't just clean, you were attuned. Later that week, you attend a poetry gathering. You're no poet, but June insists. The crowd is refined. Silk robes, quiet laughter, ink-stained fingers. During the readings, you notice how everyone tilts their heads slightly toward the speaker. It's subtle, respectful, attentive. You do the same. And there it is, that soft satisfaction of hearing every syllable. The gentle crack of the paper fan, the way the speaker swallows before reading the last line. You lean over and whisper to June, I bet half these guys clean their ears hourly. She elbows you, probably during intermission. That night you clean again, gently, expertly. Like the innkeeper taught. You hum a verse from the poetry reading, scoop by scoop. And you realize something. This isn't hygiene anymore. It's music. It's art. You're crouched in your garden the next morning, dragon mimikake in hand, when June tosses a small cloth pouch onto your lap. It jingles faintly. What's this, you ask? A bribe, she says. To get you out of the house. Inside the pouch? 3 polished mimikake, each more ornate than the last. One is shaped like a crane's beak, the second looks like a slender river reed, and the third? A miniature katana, complete with a tiny black lacquered hilt. They're from a temple market, she adds. Apparently, each one's blessed. Sort of. You arch a brow. Sort of. She shrugs. You'll see. So now you're on the road again, trekking toward Mount Koya. The path winds through forests dense with cypress and the buzz of summer cicadas. Your sandals crunch over pine needles and dry twigs. The further you climb, the quieter everything becomes. Eventually, you arrive at a secluded temple built into the hillside, where the monks greet you with bows so low, their spines must have been folded in half since birth. One of them, an elderly man with eyebrows like bird nests, guides you to a simple room with nothing but a tame mat, a scroll of Kanzeon Bosatsu, and a shallow basin of water. Ear-clearing practice, he says, motioning for you to sit. The inner silence leads to outer calm. You sit, confused, intrigued. He hands you a mimikake, not one of yours, but a plain bamboo scoop, old and slightly warped. The opposite of your dragon katana. And then he waits. You clear your throat. So, how do we? He raises a finger. No words. Only practice. And that's how you find yourself in a meditation session focused entirely on cleaning your ears. No lie. For the next hour, you sit there, left scoop, right scoop, pause. It's rhythmic. Like breathing. The monk doesn't even clean his ears. He just mimics the motion, as if tuning an invisible flute. Turns out this was a thing. In certain Zen sects, sensory rituals were folded into meditation. Washing the face, brushing the teeth, cleaning the ears, all performed with full attention, as if each act were a gateway to awakening. Historians still argue whether this was widespread practice or something confined to eccentric monastics in remote regions. But references to ear-cleansing rituals do appear in 17th-century scrolls, tucked between longer passages on seated meditation and silence fasting. You finish your session, slightly dizzy but weirdly refreshed. The monk bows. You've scooped the dust. Now scoop the mind. Okay, that's probably a metaphor, but you don't ask for clarification. Some things are better left mysterious. Before leaving, you offer the monk your dragon Mimikake, a token of thanks. He holds it up to the light, smiles, then promptly tucks it into his sleeve like it's a ballpoint pen. You trek back down the mountain. The air feels different now, lighter, and so does your head. June's waiting by the riverbank when you return. Well, she asks, did your ears find enlightenment? You sit beside her, splash water on your face and say, sort of. She laughs. Good enough. As the two of you dry your feet, you can't help but notice how the forest sounds seem sharper. Every branch rustle, every bird call, it's like your ears have sprouted antennae. You glance at June. You ever think about how weird this all is? She raises a brow. You mean the part where you just spent 2 days meditating with monks using bamboo ear scoops? You nod. Exactly that. She grins. Nope. Perfectly normal. And honestly, she's kind of right. Because here's the wild truth. Even back in feudal Japan, ear cleaning wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. Samurai believed that discipline extended to every part of the body. You couldn't wield a blade with muddy hands, and you couldn't hear a command or a threat through waxy ears. Some war manuals even stressed auditory awareness, with footnotes reminding readers to keep the ear passages clean, for clear hearing is vital in battle. That may sound obsessive now, but when you're operating in a world without radios, megaphones, or even glasses, your senses are your lifeline. There's a fringe theory that some elite guards, especially those protecting the shogun, had designated grooming intervals before shifts. Like a soldier shining boots, they would clean their ears to ensure nothing dulled their reactions. Is it true? Who knows? But imagine it, rows of men in armor, calmly scooping earwax in perfect synchrony. Battle ballet. Later that evening, you're back home. Candlelight flickers in the hallways. Somewhere in the distance, a flute plays a sad tune, probably the neighbor's grandson practicing again. You settle into your cushion, open the cloth pouch, and lay out your Mimikake collection like surgical tools. Katana, reed, crane. Each one has a different weight, a different feel in the hand. You pick up the reed-shaped one, smooth, light, flexible. It almost vibrates as you hold it. You try a few gentle scoops. And there it is, that almost inaudible shush, like silk brushing across paper. You switch to the katana scoop. It's heavier, more precise. A surgeon's scalpel. You wouldn't trust this one unless you had steady hands, and tonight, you don't. Finally, you try the crane beak. Perfection. You settle back, eyelids drooping, the scoop moving in practiced arcs. You think of the monk, of bird calls in the trees, of June's amused expression. Everything slows. Softens. It's in that half-sleep haze that you recall something else. A story about a blind Ronin who could hear footsteps from half a mile away. People said he trained by cleaning his ears after every duel. That his Mimikake was carved from the arrow that killed his brother. You don't know if that's true. Probably not. But in this moment, with the world hushed and your ears as clear as a mountain spring, it doesn't matter. You understand. Sound isn't just heard. It's received. Like a gift. You awake the next morning to a pale light filtering through shoji screens, the scent of rice porridge wafting gently from the kitchen. Your ears feel different. Lighter. As if the shadows that had lingered in their hidden chambers have been swept away by some invisible brush. You sit up, stretching out the kinks in your back and reaching for your Mimikake collection, still resting neatly on the low table beside your futon. Today, the dragon-shaped scoop catches your eye. Its delicate curves gleam softly in the morning sun, and you find yourself wondering how much artistry and care went into crafting something so small, yet so essential. In fact, the art of Mimikake crafting was a whole world in itself. Craftsmen specialized in carving these tiny tools from materials ranging from bamboo and ivory to tortoise shell and even precious metals. Some samurai prized their mimikake as highly as their swords, treating them with equal reverence. You imagine a scene, a daimyo's dressing room, where a servant carefully unpacks an exquisite silk pouch to reveal a set of golden-laid ear scoops, gifts from a rival lord, wrapped in silk and sealed with a calligraphed poem praising clean hearing and clear spirit. It's peculiar, really. The samurai were trained in the way of the sword, of course, but they also invested considerable time in grooming rituals. Hair combing, nail cleaning, and yes, ear cleaning were part of a larger philosophy of self-discipline. You start to see it all as a kind of armor, one that protected not just the body but the senses. Historians still argue whether these grooming habits were widespread across all ranks or mostly the privilege of the upper samurai echelons. Some suggest common foot soldiers had little time for such rituals, while others point to temple texts indicating that basic ear cleaning was recommended for all warriors before battle. But there's more. In your morning reverie, you recall an odd little practice whispered about in some Edo period diaries, ear massage, they called it. Apparently, after cleaning, samurai would use their fingers to gently massage the ear lobes and surrounding areas, not just for comfort, but to stimulate alertness. Imagine that, before stepping onto the battlefield, a samurai performing an ear massage ritual, like some ancient version of stretching or mindfulness. You picture a scene, a quiet dojo, soft light falling over wooden floors, a lone warrior circling slowly, methodically tending to his ears with tender care. You chuckle quietly to yourself. Who knew ears could be so complicated? But then you realize something important. The ear isn't just a hole in your head. It's a complex gateway, one that links the outer world to your inner balance. The tiny bones and canals don't just process sound. They help with your sense of equilibrium, your very ability to stand tall and steady. Some modern researchers believe that ancient ear massage practices might have helped warriors maintain their poise and reflexes. The idea being that touching and stimulating the ears could encourage blood flow to the brain and nerves, sharpening focus. Whether or not that's strictly true, it certainly adds a curious layer to your mental picture of a samurai's morning routine. You stand and stretch again, hearing the faint clatter of bowls in the next room. Your ears catch the smallest noises, the rustle of fabric, the quiet scrape of wood on tatami. You think about how much attention was devoted to training these senses, how essential clear hearing was when lives depended on split-second reactions. You pick up the dragon mimikake and give your ear a delicate scoop. The soft flick of the tool against the skin sends a tiny shiver down your spine, an odd mix of tickle and relief. You smile. Not bad, you murmur. Outside, a crow caws, slicing through the quiet morning air. You imagine the sound reaching a samurai's ears centuries ago, perhaps signaling the start of another day filled with training, honor, and ritual. And you're here, sitting quietly in your room, connected by a thread of time to that world of mindful care and sharp senses. Somehow, in this slow moment, the distance feels smaller. You lean back, close your eyes, and breathe. Because sometimes, the smallest details, like how you clean your ears, tell the largest stories. As the sun climbs higher, you find yourself curious about what else the samurai might have used besides their trusty mimikake. You pick up a small ceramic bowl nearby, picturing a similar vessel from centuries past filled with warm water infused with herbs, designed to soften earwax before the careful scooping began. In fact, samurai sometimes used special ear cleaning solutions made from natural ingredients like green tea or rice bran. These gentle cleansers not only helped remove debris but were believed to have soothing properties. Imagine a samurai dipping a soft cloth or thin stick into one of these infusions, the faint aroma of tea leaves mingling with the wooden scent of the room. You've stumbled upon a detail many might overlook. The ritual wasn't just mechanical. It was sensory. The coolness of the water, the delicate scent, the light touch of the tools, each element designed to calm and focus. You realize that this entire process was as much about mental preparation as hygiene. There's a playful little story from Edo period writings about a samurai who got so engrossed in his ear-cleaning routine that he missed an urgent summons to battle. His lord reportedly remarked, with a smirk, that perhaps the samurai was just making sure his ears were battle-ready. You can't help but smile at the image, a fierce warrior calmly polishing his ears while chaos brews outside. Historians still argue whether such leisurely grooming was a luxury afforded only in times of peace or a daily discipline, no matter the urgency. Some accounts suggest that when on campaign, samurai might have used simpler, more portable tools, even improvising with sharpened bones or slender bamboo sticks. This reminds you of how grooming practices often adapt to circumstance. You think of modern travelers with travel-sized toiletries and pocket combs, echoing this ancient adaptability. The samurai had their own versions, compact mimikake sets that could fit inside small lacquered boxes, easy to carry on the road or into camp. And then, there's the matter of posture during ear cleaning. You picture the samurai seated in seiza, kneeling gracefully on tatami mats, body straight, breathing slow and even, one hand steadying the tool while the other gently pulls the ear to widen the canal. This required both patience and precision, turning a simple hygiene task into an act of meditation. You pause and reflect on the delicate balance of focus and gentleness. It's a skill you wouldn't have guessed was so central to the samurai's routine. After all, one wrong move could cause discomfort or injury. You think about how these small moments of care, repeated daily, build not just physical cleanliness but discipline and calm. A light breeze stirs the paper screen, carrying a faint sound of bamboo clacking, perhaps from a distant gardener tidying a Zen courtyard. It fits perfectly with your slowly growing image of the samurai world, a place where every action, no matter how small, blends mindfulness with practicality. In this light, ear cleaning isn't just about health. It's a practice that sharpens your senses, grounds your mind, and prepares you for whatever the day might bring, whether it's a quiet meditation or the thunderous clash of battle. You give your own ear a thoughtful scratch, imagining you're sitting in a century-old room somewhere in Japan, repeating a ritual honed by centuries of warriors before you. And maybe, just maybe, your ears are a little cleaner, and your mind a little sharper, because of it. The sun begins to dip lower, casting long shadows over the polished wooden floors where you picture samurai quietly tending to their grooming. You realize you've only just touched on the practical tools. Now it's time to explore the artistry behind the mimikake itself, the craftsmanship that made it more than just a stick with a scoop. Mimikake were often made from bamboo, ivory, or even precious metals, each material chosen not just for function but for subtle elegance. Imagine a delicate tool carved by a master artisan, with a handle polished smooth to fit perfectly between thumb and forefinger. Some had tiny decorative tassels hanging from the end, gently swaying as the samurai moved, a small flourish in an otherwise stoic routine. You might think of these as simple ear picks, but the samurai's mimikake were also status symbols, small works of art signaling refinement. A high-ranking samurai might own several, each with a different scoop size or shape, designed for different parts of the ear canal or different stages of cleaning. One curious tidbit you come across is that some mimikake included miniature bells or tiny mirrors embedded near the scoop. The bells helped alert a nearby servant that the cleaning was in progress without breaking the serenity of the moment, while the mirrors offered a rare glimpse inside the ear canal, helping ensure thorough but gentle cleaning. Historians still debate whether these ornamental features were widespread or limited to only the wealthiest samurai. Some argue they were more ceremonial than practical, used during special occasions or as gifts. Others suggest they were common, reflecting the samurai's dedication to personal care. You picture a samurai receiving such a mimikake as a gift, maybe from a favored artisan or even a lady of the court, the tool engraved with subtle symbols or poetic motifs. This would make ear cleaning not only a daily habit but also a moment steeped in personal meaning. The artistry extended to the case or box that housed the mimikake. Lacquered in rich black or deep red, sometimes inlaid with mother-of-pearl, these cases were treasures in their own right, kept on display with other prized possessions. This attention to detail fits perfectly with what you know about samurai culture, a fusion of discipline and appreciation for beauty, where even the smallest tool carries a story. As you imagine the samurai sliding a gleaming mimikake from its box, you can almost hear the faint click, the whisper of lacquer, and the soft brush of silk sleeves. It's an oddly soothing thought. that a warrior's weapon of choice for daily hygiene could also be a delicate jewel, carefully maintained and treasured. Your mind wanders to modern collectors who prize antique mimikake for their craftsmanship, a quiet reminder that even the humblest tools can become art. You smile softly, the image lingering, the samurai's quiet moment, the gleam of lacquer, the faint jingle of a tiny bell. And with that, you sense the ritual's timelessness. In every age, people find comfort in beauty, precision, and care. As twilight deepens, you settle into the quiet rhythm of the samurai's world and consider the social side of ear cleaning, a surprisingly communal affair in some circles. Picture a modest tea house or a noble's private chamber where samurai and attendants gather not just to prepare for battle, but to share moments of quiet intimacy through grooming rituals. You might imagine an attendant or trusted companion carefully cleaning a samurai's ears, a role requiring both skill and trust. This was no mere chore, it was a bond, a moment of vulnerability shared between warrior and retainer. The attendant would use specially designed tools, often smaller and more delicate than the samurai's own, allowing for precision and gentleness. One quirky story recounts a samurai so particular about his ear cleaning that he insisted on only one attendant, his ear master, who understood exactly how to touch each curve and fold of his ear canal. It was said that the warrior would fall into a kind of trance, lulled by the gentle scrape and flick, a brief respite from the harshness of his duties. Historians still argue whether this practice was widespread or reserved for the upper echelons of samurai society. Some sources suggest it was common for samurai of all ranks to have grooming attendants, while others hint that only daimyo and high-ranking officers enjoyed such luxury. Interestingly, this concept of trusted ear cleaning partners echoes modern practices in some cultures, where friends or family help each other with similar intimate tasks, a reminder that connection and care transcend time. You imagine the scene, the samurai seated regally, eyes half closed, as the attendant works methodically, the soft scrape of mimikake tools the only sound besides the faint clink of teacups nearby. The atmosphere is calm, almost reverent. This shared grooming ritual also served practical purposes. It kept samurai ready for battle by maintaining alertness. Clean ears mean sharper hearing, and it strengthened loyalty bonds within the household. On a lighter note, there's a tale of a young samurai who, during one such session, accidentally startled his attendant by sneezing mid-cleaning. The attendant's swift reflex saved the day, but the story became a humorous anecdote about the unpredictability of human nature, even in the most disciplined settings. You chuckle softly, imagining that moment, perhaps the only time a samurai's stern demeanor cracked in public. And so, the simple act of ear cleaning becomes a window into the social fabric of the samurai world, blending trust, care, and a dash of gentle humor. As night deepens, you appreciate how even the most rigorous warriors needed moments like these, small oases of calm and connection amid their demanding lives. The samurai's day starts early, but the evening brings a different kind of ritual, one less about combat and more about cleansing and preparation for rest. You find yourself imagining the end of a long day, the samurai unwinding beneath paper lanterns that cast soft, flickering light across tatami mats. This is when ear cleaning becomes part of a larger nightly routine, blending practicality with subtle ceremony. You picture the samurai sitting cross-legged, the gentle scraping of the mimikake paired with the faint aroma of incense drifting through the air. The sound is almost meditative, a delicate rhythm that quiets the mind and signals the body to relax. Interestingly, some records suggest that ear cleaning was linked to broader health beliefs. Traditional Japanese medicine held that the ears were gateways to the body's energy channels, so maintaining them wasn't just about hygiene but also about spiritual balance. A clean ear was thought to foster clarity of mind and improve focus, a useful asset when facing the uncertainties of battle the next day. You learn that some samurai added subtle enhancements to the ritual, using a tiny bit of camellia oil to soften earwax or occasionally dipping the mimikake in herbal infusions meant to soothe and refresh. Historians still debate how widely these medicinal practices were adopted. Was this daily care routine common across all samurai, or did it remain confined to those more devoted to esoteric arts? The records are patchy, but the idea of blending grooming with wellness feels right for a culture that prized harmony in all things. There's a charming, lesser-known detail about ear cleaning in the Edo period. Some samurai kept miniature poems or haikus on small scrolls nearby, reciting them softly as they cleaned, turning the practice into a poetic meditation. You can almost hear the whisper of a verse, a delicate pairing of sound and meaning, turning something so simple into a moment of beauty. At times, the samurai's attendants would join in softly chanting Buddhist sutras, their voices mingling with the sounds of gentle scraping and the flickering lantern light, creating an atmosphere both soothing and sacred. You're reminded of how modern spa rituals echo this blend of care and calm, except here, the stakes are a little higher, and the tools a little sharper. As you imagine the samurai easing into sleep after such a ritual, you wonder whether these moments of quiet self-care offered them more than just physical cleanliness, a kind of mental armor, a buffer against the chaos of war. The ear cleaning isn't just about health or status, it's a ritual that connects body, mind, and spirit in a gentle, enduring tradition. And as your thoughts drift along with the slow scrape of the mimikake, you feel your own eyelids grow heavier, the quiet night wrapping around you like a soft kimono. The samurai's world was built on rituals, many of which intertwined practical needs with symbolic meaning. Ear cleaning fits neatly into this pattern, not just a hygiene practice, but a carefully choreographed gesture with layered significance. As you think more about it, you realize how the simple act of cleaning ears might have echoed larger samurai ideals. For example, consider the samurai's famed discipline and attention to detail. The mimikake scraping required steady hands, patience, and a gentle touch, qualities also essential in wielding a katana. You imagine that focusing on this tiny task might have served as quiet training, honing concentration and calmness. A lesser-known fact is that some samurai used ear cleaning as a form of mental rehearsal before battle. The slow, deliberate motions helped center their minds, pushing away distractions and sharpening their resolve. This idea fascinates you, how an everyday ritual could double as a meditation. Historians still debate whether this practice was widespread or just the personal habit of a few particularly reflective warriors. The lack of direct written records leaves room for speculation, but the concept fits well with the samurai's known emphasis on mindfulness. You also find references to ear cleaning in samurai poetry and literature, where the act becomes a metaphor for purifying the mind or listening carefully to the world's subtle signals. It seems even their storytelling valued the idea that cleansing could be both physical and spiritual. Imagine a samurai seated quietly by candlelight, mimikake in hand, eyes half closed, mind clear and focused. This image is both peaceful and powerful, a small but meaningful moment amid a life often defined by violence and upheaval. On a lighter note, there's an amusing tale about a samurai who tried to teach his horse to appreciate ear cleaning by tapping it gently on the ear. The horse was less than impressed, and the story became a humorous reminder that not all creatures enjoy grooming rituals equally. You smile at the thought, a warrior known for discipline, outsmarted by a stubborn horse. As you reflect, you realize that the samurai's ear cleaning was a microcosm of their whole philosophy, blending beauty with utility, patience with purpose, and care with strength. And in that, there's a timeless lesson. Sometimes the smallest acts carry the greatest meaning. Your thoughts slow, the faint scrape of imagined mimikake tools blending with the quiet night. You've already settled into the quiet rhythm of samurai ear cleaning, but there's more to uncover about how this ritual changed through time, especially as Japan's society evolved. Picture the shift from the battlefield intensity of the Sengoku period to the relative peace of the Edo era. The samurai's role shifted, and so did their habits. By the Edo period, many samurai lived more as bureaucrats and less as warriors, so grooming rituals like ear cleaning took on new social meanings. They became markers of refinement and status, subtle ways to show off discipline and etiquette in tea houses and formal gatherings. Imagine a samurai delicately polishing his ears before a meeting, a quiet but clear sign that he cared about the smallest details. Because, well, he did. You learn that some samurai even had personalized mimikake sets, crafted by master artisans, with handles made of ivory, lacquer, or bamboo, sometimes engraved with family crests. These tiny tools were prized possessions, carefully stored and handled with respect. It's fascinating to think about the craftsmanship that went into a tool so small but so central to daily life. Historians still argue whether the rise of these luxurious ear cleaning sets reflected a genuine health practice or simply a fashionable trend among the samurai elite. Some suggest it was both, a merging of practical care and social signaling. Then there's the quirky custom in some samurai circles of exchanging mimikake tools as tokens of friendship or loyalty. Imagine receiving such a delicate, intimate gift from a comrade, a reminder of trust and mutual respect. You also find a charming little story of a samurai lord who insisted his attendants clean his ears in a particular rhythm, believing it brought good fortune. The attendants, of course, grumbled in private but respected the ritual's importance. Even warriors had their superstitions. At times, the samurai's ear cleaning ritual became a sort of art performance, especially in Edo's cultured districts. Picture a gentle scraping accompanied by soft koto music, an atmosphere designed to soothe both body and spirit. It's remarkable to consider how something so simple evolved into a layered practice, part hygiene, part status, part ceremony. As you let that sink in, the imagined sounds soften, and you feel the calm settle deeper. By now, you're well acquainted with the intimate world of samurai ear cleaning, but there's one final twist to this tale: how modern Japan remembers and revives these ancient rituals. Today, in a world buzzing with technology and noise, some traditionalists still cherish the mimikake ritual, seeing it as a link to history and a way to slow down. You picture a modern ear-cleaning parlor in Tokyo, softly lit, staffed by experts who use handcrafted mimikake tools, blending old techniques with gentle modern care. The client reclines, eyes closed, as the professional works with delicate precision, an echo of samurai attentiveness centuries ago. Interestingly, this practice isn't just about physical cleanliness but has become a small act of mindfulness and relaxation, similar to a spa treatment. It's easy to see how this connects back to the samurai idea of calm focus and bodily respect. Historians still debate whether this revival is an authentic continuation or more of a nostalgic recreation, but the continuity of care remains undeniable. You might even find samurai reenactors paying special attention to ear cleaning in their detailed rituals, acknowledging that even small personal habits reflect broader cultural values. In rural areas, older generations recall family stories where ear cleaning was a shared moment, sometimes with parents carefully cleaning their children's ears as a gesture of love and care. You imagine these moments, quiet, gentle, and full of trust, echoing the samurai's balance of strength and tenderness. As your mind drifts, you recall earlier tales of incense, poetry, and subtle rituals, realizing that the samurai's ear cleaning was never just about ears, it was about presence, attention, and respect. And now, you feel your own breath slow, the soft scrape of imagined mimikake merging with the night's peaceful hush. So, as you settle down, remember that sometimes, the smallest, slowest acts can carry the deepest meaning. Rest easy. Window. The quiet scraping fades into silence. You feel the gentle weight of stillness pressing softly around you, like a warm blanket settling in. There's no rush here, no urgent call to action, only the slow, steady rhythm of breath and the comforting memory of rituals long past. The samurai's world, with its delicate balance of strength and grace, now folds softly into your own. Imagine the flicker of lantern light dimming, the faint scent of camellia oil lingering, and the whispered poetry that once accompanied those quiet moments. Let those gentle sounds and images wrap around you like a soft kimono, easing your mind away from today's worries. Every scrape of the mimikake was a tiny act of care, a moment to pause, listen, and attend, not just to the ears, but to the self. And as you drift toward sleep, hold on to that thought. In stillness, there is strength. In gentleness, power. Let the peaceful quiet deepen, and know that tomorrow will come with fresh light, but for now, you rest in calm. Good night, and sweet dreams.